Rishad, I think I see it in a very simple way, right? Is that there are things that I have to do no matter what, because like you, like a lot of people in the planet, we have to pay the bill, we need to buy food, we have families to support. So there is an element of what is necessary. And what is necessary, whether you like it or not, it has to be done. Then it's all this other stuff that is beautiful, is joyful, and doesn't require really any goal apart from doing it, right? I mean, when I write, I like to write. When I coach, I love to coach, and all that. But there is a part of my time that I have to dedicate to what is necessary. And so perhaps this is what at the moment I'm in between the two worlds, being in society and being fine also not being in society. So going back to the world, and this is where you were telling me you were last time, right? Because I think we are at a point in time where we could simply just disappear and don't do anything. It's just, enjoy the day. That's it. But then the work call us, and we have to come back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. That's true.
Basically, this is the you study the chakras, right? And this is the seventh chakra. So when you are up there, basically your spirit is about to merge with the greater spirit. But then somebody calls you back and say, listen, you've got stuff to do. And so come back in the world. So finding that balance of merging whilst being in society, I think this is where we're struggling.
Yeah.
Not struggling as such, but this is where we are.
Yeah. So we can use this recording as an opportunity for anything you want to do or not do or anything like that. It may be useful for you having some clips that you can put out. Yeah, and everything takes a form. So how about this suggestion? You do the interviewing of me. In other words, yeah, I will comment and question. The reason why you do that is because it will bring up a fresh approach, if you'd like. I mean, the other option is I could interview you again, which
No, I like the idea of me interviewing you, and to be honest, it's new. So you're right, it's gonna be fresh, and then if we use it, we use it. Otherwise,
no, it shouldn't be because of yeah. Let's have some fun.
Yes, and what is the topic that you would like me to interview you about?
I don't have a topic.
What do you think are the audience that know us?
Forget about the audience.
I mean, for the benefit of somebody. Actually, something that I'm curious about.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. You're traveling in the desert. You're being in the desert with, what's the name of the people that you spent time with?
The Sufis.
The Sufis. Is that okay if I ask you those questions?
Anything you want, because whatever we want to remove, we remove. Whatever we want to keep.
Yeah, okay. So why don't we start? So I'll start with the greetings. Okay?
No, let it play out. We'll just take portions. Whatever it is, we'll cut. Yeah, we make it, because nobody's going to watch the whole thing anyway.
No, of course not. Yeah. Okay. So Rishad,
it flows a lot more that way.
Yeah. You told me, Rishad, that you spent some times with the Sufi in the desert. How come that decision to go?
The decision to go to the desert started a long time ago. It's a craving of mine that has started since childhood, um, and I got captured by a documentary that I saw. If I remember correctly, his name is Michael Pollan, but no, I'm Michael something. Anyway, he did this three-part documentary, BBC documentary on the Sahara, and I just looked into these people's eyes, and they showed them they're the Tuareg people that wore these blue turbans. Their faces turned blue from the salt content, and there was something in their spirits that reminded me of my spirit. So I set on a journey, off on a journey. So yeah, I set off on a journey many years ago, uh, 23 years ago, to go and from Australia to go and live with them, to take from their essence. There's something in them that I recognized that I wanted from them. So I was on my way there, and I stopped over to meet another Sufi uh, master. You could call it that. I'm using words that are relatable to you,
Yeah.
but so you could call it like a guru or a Sufi master. This is a rough estimation of the Arabic words on it. So he suggested that I don't go, and I stay with him. And so I ended up moving to Cape Town, where he was, and I spent the next 22 years of my life with him. During that time, one of the other masters came from Morocco to visit and invited us to go to the desert. And I said, well, this is the opportunity. So I went, and we had an amazing adventure over the mountains, the Atlas Mountains, and all the rest of it. And I stayed with these people, and I felt very at home. And so there's been a lot of exchanges with these people, and a group of friends of mine are now going to the middle of the desert. It's it's very untouched. It's very raw. The traditions have been passed down for generations. Their beliefs, you could call it that, but it's not really beliefs. It's their understanding of the nature of life, of each other, of the higher dimensions, and they have fascinating. I was going to say the word ritual, but it's not the word ritual. Discoveries, like the Tuareg people can read sand, so they'll take some sand and tell you everything about yourself, and it's all hidden in the sand. The most incredible things. And I encountered this thing where they had knowledges of things that were impossible in the realm of how me and you live. And so I
Such
was,
as?
hmm?
Such as?
Well, one of my friends that was there, my master passed away, and I was in Cape Town, and another friend of mine was with this one of the big big masters out there, and he told me the story. So he said to me, I was there walking around in the desert, and he saw me, and he saw me adjusting my turban, and he looked at me and he said, "Your master is not well." And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about, because there's no communication. There's electricity there for 2 hours a day." The next day, he got a phone call saying that he's died here in Cape Town,
No.
and so this man now wanted to go and ask permission from the master to leave and to come back home for the funeral, and he couldn't get access. And then finally, a message was sent through another man saying, "What is done is done. There is no point going back." And this man does not have access to the outside world in any way. So that's one example. I've seen thousands of these things in my life with these types of people, not only in the Sahara, but in my trips to Japan, my trips. I've done many trips into these places with these people, and so they interest me and they fascinate me in many levels. But I think their deep awareness of you could call it the nature of existence as we know it is quite deep, and they are guided and journey through the lands and through themselves on a different plane of existence. What that is, I can't define. But when I visited the Zen masters and some of the Chinese monks, I saw the exact same thing in them. There was a sense of, like you described, the merging. Yet there was this very strong engagement with reality through the conceptual framework. It was not living in the clouds. They're very grounded people. So that was my. I got the essence of that very deeply. It was a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you said something kind of stayed. You said, I felt home when I was with them. I felt home. And you also said that there's something about these guys that reminds you your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, that thing that you said, it makes me feel home? How is that? How do you perceive feeling at home?
So it's the sense of now we'll be using very many terms that have been defined by other people, but this is simply
Sure. Yeah.
as the Zen masters call it. This is grasping. Okay, so now you're grasping at what is familiar to you that you can refer to. So it may seem that the soul that's within you connects to their soul, the oneness of all things in all times. You could call it that. All of those types of things, and I'm very averse to naming what that is because of my over analytical, overthinking, over conceptual, over scientific, over rational mind that needs something to label and to say this is what it is, and I struggle to do that, to define that. However, like I said towards the end, they don't live there; they live with that. Whereas in the West, there's a sense of I am. They conceptualize that thing, and they grasp onto it intellectually and rationally, and then use rational arguments to show why this is not the case. Like why all of this is just nonsense, right? And I've been guilty of the same thing because my audience needs to be taken to that level. It's like, okay, well, this is not real, and showing you from scientific information, but the not the reality, the nature of it is that it is ungraspable. However, you don't live in the world of. So the Sufis have two terms. The one is the world of forms, and the one is the world of meanings. So what we're referring it to is the world of meanings, and the world of meanings can only be explained through forms. However, you will never get the form. You'll never get the meaning in the forms. You won't. You get a hint of it, but you'll miss it. And so the Sufis say that the words cut through from this thing that it's called the barzakh, is this dimension between worlds, between the worlds of meaning and the world of form. And when a word is spoken, you've cut through now. So in order for that to remain as it was and is and will always be, then don't speak, in a way.
You said something very powerful. You said they live with that. If you think about this, and clearly you obviously chose your words, meaningfully. But if you think about it, this is perhaps the challenge of not sure whether the Western world or the entire humanity, but it's that we conceptualize, we need to find a meaning that is outside. It's an outside meaning, because unless we get there, unless we have a meaning, we are meaningless. And so we got to add something. But when you said they live with that, there is a complete change of the paradigm. Because they live with that, it means that you are so grounded, you are there, and whatever happens, tell me if I'm going off track, but whatever happens, you are still there. So it could be another that, it could be another that, it could be another situation, circumstance, it could be many circumstances, but you live in the moment, you live there. So this is what I got when you were saying that the Sufi live with that, with what they have, what goes through. It kind of got into me. So it's powerful.
Yes, that's correct. The Sufis say there is a journey to Allah. You want to call it God or that place that we can't define, or that thing which we put a use a placeholder called Allah. There's a journey to Allah and there's a journey in Allah. So now you are there and you are navigating from that different level of awareness. Having said that, we know that we have been created. Of course, there are others who believe we're not created and all of it's just whatever it is, which I don't have a problem with either. I don't have a problem with pretty much anything, except people defining things and saying, no, this is the way it should be, which I have an issue with that because it's not opening it up. So then we have been created with this inability to stay there. We have been created like that. It's our nature, because if we could stay there all the time, then we would be living in a different dimension and life wouldn't carry on per se, as far as I'm concerned. Other people disagree. Like you have these utopian people who say, well, if everybody was like this, then this world will be a happy place and everybody would be singing and dancing and being merry because we all realize we're all God or gods or all the rest of it. So for me, the journey began there. If I can.
Of course. Yeah.
So the one aspect is getting there. The second aspect is living here with that. So living here with that requires a totally different way of looking at reality. And so in the Zen, they say this simple thing, not two. It's not two, but it's not one. So if it's not two, then it's not one, then what is it? We don't know. So you must understand that you live in the world of not two, but you also live in the world of not one. So it's so sure, you know the world of one maybe, but do you know how to live in the world of not one? And I think that's where traditions, etiquette, mannerisms, cultures, rules, regulations. I'm talking more specifically, like from my times with the Zen people. They wake up in the morning, make their bed, clean the kitchen, and they're not sitting there going, "Oh well, I'm in the higher dimensions." They are so engaged with whatever they're doing in this world of not one or not two, is that they are in that other realm, which is just the same as the realm. There is no differentiation, and that's when I think it's captured very beautifully in another Zen saying that says that before enlightenment, chop wood, fetch water. After enlightenment, chop wood, fetch water. Now we may claim that we're enlightened, however, I don't buy into the concept of whatever that is as a concept, because that concept has all these things attached to it. So for me, it's not. It's only an expression of what I'm referring to in the sense of that other realm.
Yeah, and enlightenment perhaps is one of the most misleading thing that even this one becomes maybe a higher goal even. So it creates even more illusion because it's supposed to be something so exciting, something so beautiful that everybody wants to be enlightened, right? I do not know that either, but one thing I know is that definitely there is a possibility for us, and tell me what you think about it, for everybody to get lighter. And lighter in the sense that when you start understanding sitting from the awareness perspective, that you create your own problem, you create your own meanings, you create everything, then if something is hurting you and you bring along as a heavy load, if you see it, that it's been you creating it, then it disappears, and that it becomes a process that continues every day, for years, and it transforms you, definitely, but it's a never-ending process. At least at the way it's happening, to me, it's a never-ending process, because when I think, I'm so light, maybe an event happens that triggers me, and immediately I realize, oops, something else I need to look at. And it is also the beauty of it, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. So again, referring to the Sufis, they have a simple statement. They say, when you forget, remember. That's it. End of story. So that is what you're describing right now. You do get lost, because this is how we're created, to forget.
Yeah.
Funny, because the Arabic word for man is insan, which means the forgetful one. So it's our nature, and that's what you said, that it is quite amusing, and it's quite joyful. This is what it is, right? We forgot. We get back to it, but not
Yeah.
the ego level. Oh my God, look, I've done it again, and I'm
Yeah,
back
yeah,
down to
exactly.
where. And that then diminishes your, and that's why it's so simple in 3 words, right? Or 4. When you forget, remember. 4, 4, I think.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah, I totally um, relate to that. Yeah, yeah.
So in your view, Rishad, because most of the time when I see also, on LinkedIn posts and opinions of people anyway, it could be in any social or even like real interaction on the street with friends and family. There is this thing that is whether everybody does it or nobody does it. And society will never change unless everybody change. I don't think that that's ever going to be possible. But I don't think that that's it has to be everybody like becoming lighter and everybody becoming more wiser and so on. My view, my opinion, if you want to call it this way, is that it is sufficient that a number of people that maybe have influential position, they can influence people, or they can, key players in society, in politics, and everything, they get there, it is sufficient for the whole of humanity to change. It doesn't have to be every single human being changing. So do you think that that's a possibility that mankind has, or we are completely screwed in terms of completely having to forget the whole thing, messing the whole planet up, and then being wiped out as previous civilization were wiped out with the big flooding and so on, and then started again from scratch? Do you think we have to do that all the time, or can be a time where we actually wake up in sufficient number to make
Yeah.
things better?
So it's a very, very important and good question. My opinion before was one, and my opinion now is different. So for me, there are cycles of time. If we look at the last 400 years of this version of us on the planet, we've been at war 80% of the time. As human beings, we are constantly in strife, in struggle, all the rest of it. There is a beauty in the differences that we all are. You find throughout previous generations, there are these people that were lighter load, and they influence people. And what you find throughout history is that it wasn't those key decision makers and people who you wanted to influence, who you believe should change. The presidents, the kings, the sultans, those were the ones that were there because of another need. And you get these rare exceptions. You see them where they say, well, and they don't last very long, because the status quo of why we assume power is defined by that. So um, I think that my belief whether it will happen or not. Someone asked me this question, and I got quite furious at it, but I can't get furious with you because it's a little presumptuous to say what we know and what we don't know. You can have an opinion, no doubt, but who's to say all this chaos, including us, our suffering through our rational minds, and then fighting back, and it's the return, and it's the departure, and it is the nature of what has been created, and in it is the magnificence of certain individuals rising. So I can't impose this on another human being or on the world or any global position. I don't know of it. Can it happen? Yes. Should it happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the question was more in terms of, so most of the people think that unless we all wake up, humanity is going to be screwed anyway. Whilst for me, it is not even necessary nor possible that all humanity wakes up at the same time, simultaneously. The whole planet, all civilization, all societies. To me, I don't see this happening.
Can I just pause you there? Because I just heard you now, and then you're going to say about the key people that you want to influence, and then that would be enough. I heard that. You said that previously. But yes?
It is not I want to influence people. I'm just saying that you know the generalization that we do when we think in duality, right? It's either this or that, and to me this is not the
No, but
way.
the reason I just wanted to pause you there is because then you said, well, if all of them don't wake up, then we may be screwed. That I just want to, like, what is the purpose of this certain individuals or some people or not all people would stop this us getting screwed? I don't get that part. Like, what are we trying to achieve here?
We're not trying to achieve anything. I'm just trying to observe the way human societies behave. And so I was thinking about all these cycles of civilization that, like, maybe every 5,000 or 12,000 years happen. Humanity goes through certain evolution. They get to a certain level of technology, ability to do impressive things. Then something happened in the planet. We are wiped out, and we start again. And we start again from almost from scratch, right? So building up again a collective consciousness that evolves from, like, Middle Ages, from beliefs that if you are a witch, I need to burn you in front of everybody because you're doing terrible things, right? So the evolution of mankind, I was thinking from a very large perspective and saying, okay, do you think that, and so the question was, are we doomed to repeat the whole thing over and over again because we forget the level of wisdom that are, if you think about it, we're talking about the ancient Greeks or the ancient Egyptian or the ancient Indian, the Vedas. It's all very old stuff, and we still, after thousands of years, this the Tao Te Ching, we're still referring back to a wisdom that was available 1,000 years ago, almost like we as humanity, we're taking so long before that becomes part of our cultural understanding, if you want to call it this way, or our evolution of consciousness, right? We tend to be more forgetful than bringing this level of awareness along with us as a society. So with that in mind, I was saying, do you think, because I don't think it's possible that all of the world can become wise all at the same time everywhere, and so we drop the wars, we drop the pollution, and we start cooperating with each other, and all those things that you would do when you are aware of the consequences of your action or your thoughts. Then the question was, is it possible that all we have to achieve as a mankind to have a better society? So if you want to search for a meaning, for what is the purpose is to have a better society. Okay, because if you have more people that are aware, you have a better society. That's it. So is it possible that it is not necessary to expect that the entire world wakes up, but it is sufficient that a few people that reach, let's say, a critical mass within society can actually start impacting and influencing in that way the behavior of the masses?
Yeah. The short answer is I don't know. The Yeah, I won't go into the long answer. It's just the assumptions that we make that this process of lightening ourselves will lead to a better society. It is and it isn't. We don't know that for sure. We can assume, because I've not been around for 5,000 years, 2,000 years, and all the rest of it. All I know is that there was struggles, and then there were people that came through different times. If you look at time of great famine, great difficulty, there wasn't a need for this enlightenment. So you could somehow, and that's where causation, correlations, and all the rest of them is making a lot of assumptions, which is what we must do as humans living in this form, right? And so yeah, I don't know the answer to the question. However, there's in effect, if you actually look at cause and effect and what would lead to this based on that, is also an assumption that can become quite proud, in the sense, like, if more people were like us, and I'm not meaning it in any bad way towards you or towards me. I'm talking about us as the same thing, is that we don't know. We don't know. All I can say is, if I take the collective mankind traditions and all the rest of it, and I take it into myself, and I say, what would it be like if I stayed more there and less here? How would that impact me? And will I become better for myself and for society and for all the rest of it? I could say maybe, right? Because then I look around and I say, okay, well, these people that are, living more there, are they more useful, or are they less useful for the greater good of? So from the individual's perspective, from my perspective, it makes sense. But I can't impose this on something I know very little about. Like, I don't know the nature of it. For me, if I look at the animal kingdom and I see how you have droughts, you have famines, you have mass extinctions, you have killing of tremendous proportions, even the fires that we saw in Australia, and hundreds of millions of animals perished, and we could say, oh, that's such a tragedy. But again, we're imposing something on something we know very little about. There is this nature of events and of things, and we are just in the midst of it, using the faculty that is very restricted. So I'm not trying to be pedantic here, but I'm saying we are so limited by what we think we know, and all our investigations as well, from the level of mind into ourselves and what makes us happy and what we are and how we're getting enlightened and all the rest of it, is so flawed in a way. I mean, it is useful because it's all we've got. I'm not in any way negating that. Let's go for the better planet, and let's go for nicer people and enlightened people and all the rest of it. But there's this one thing that says that if everyone got onto the game that God created this world, if you want to call it God, that God would start this all over again, because the whole point of this thing was this game. And so if all of us goes, that's it, I know the game, God says, all right, well, game over, then let's start again.
Well, this is what I was saying, right? This is what I was saying earlier, because I don't see this happening. I don't see this happening, that everybody at the same time would become aware individual and with every civilization. I don't see that happening. Also because we have no evidence that this has ever happened. Okay, at least for as much as I know. Okay, so with my limitation. but we all have the same limitation. We can go as far as we can go. That's it. And so what I think is, rather than making it a statement of pride, I would be very I would just make the statement for what it is, whether it sounds a matter of pride or humbleness or whatever that is. That's a labeling, okay? But if you see the facts, the way you were like 30 years ago, with all your internal struggle and conflicts, or the way I was very combative, I was very aggressive. I wasn't a peaceful one. At times, I was going to look for conflict. I was purposely going to look for conflicts. If I look at me now, and if I take this as not as an individual, but as a piece of society going through this, clearly society is going to be less aggressive, less violent, more aware, meaning not necessarily going to look for a meaning to make your life better, because you are in that, what you were saying earlier. And so this is what I was referring to with all this thing about society and civilization. And so I think that people most of the time take the alibi for not doing anything by saying, well, it's never going to happen because we are 8 billion people, and 8 billion people waking up all at the same time. It never happened in the past. We don't know that ever happened in the past. It's never going to happen. So why the hell am I going to make any effort today? So I think that people sometimes with this duality mindset, it's either or everybody wakes up. But it wakes up, it's not really the point. The point is being more aware individuals. Whatever that waking up means to me is being aware. So it is not necessary, because it cannot even happen that 8 billion people become aware all at one go, but it should not be an alibi.
Yeah, to leave out personal responsibility.
Yeah, and I see that this is happening. And every time for example, I mentioned this, like, being aware in society, it's impactful. It's impactful. You cannot deny the impact that you have on people today as an individual, because you are a more aware individual. You lost all your violence, inner violence. I'm not saying violence in terms of guns and knives, but you know what I mean, right? As an approach toward other people, other individuals. So you are more relaxed. You're more willing, open to listen. I wasn't. I was never open to listen. I wanted to make my point, or I would fight to make my point through. So did my life and the life of the people around me change because of that? Yes, a lot. So I think this is really possible to change, to be influential in that sense, not because we want to be influential. That actually you lose it completely, any interest to be influential, but you realize that you are being an influence. So I think there's a fine line between falling from pride to humbleness, but the reality is, when you are aware, you realize the impact that you have. We're not going to label it. You're not going to be proud of it, because you can't do anything any different, but you can see that this is happening. Otherwise, it would be, to me, a fake humbleness. Not to say I'm having an impact, because you are having an impact, right? What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, just the collective um, reasoning and effect. I don't know about. Like I think about this from the Lion Kingdom, and I looked at the lions, and I see, look how aggressive they are. They just ate three of their young, and then the lion, when he gets old, the other lions attack him and kill him, and they can't hunt in packs. And I would look at that from my observational mind, saying, if you guys could stop doing this, we would have such peace and harmony, and all the animals would be together. We'd all live so much better. The lions would thrive, and we'd be able to dominate the whole universe together because we're the strongest, and we can ditch the violence. I'm only using this analogy to say so that individual lion may have benefited so much because his cubs are not being eaten up, and his women in the family are not a danger, and he's a wonderful, calm human being. And yeah, I can't answer the question on behalf of the Lion Kingdom because again, I don't know the answer to whether it would be good or bad. So yeah, I don't know the impact of what I'm doing. And sometimes even those people who are on the other side of the fence are saying, well, if everybody had to take this medicine, and then we would solve this problem, and if everybody had to wash their hands and wash their feet, then we would eliminate this particular germ, which from the rational thinking it makes sense. And then you go on air and say, well, if everybody washed their hands and washed their feet, then we wouldn't have this particular bacteria. And again, we just don't know enough to make the generalization. But
Absolutely.
to confirm in what you're saying is that on individual level, it does make a sense of peace. However, if I hadn't been such a arrogant, opinionated, violent, unreasonable human being, then I wouldn't be enjoying this so much. So if I think that the individual struggle through this is like profoundly important, and the more of a scoundrel you are, the more beneficial you may become later. Again, this is not cause and effect. We can't make a generalization, but I would say that I'm really enjoying this time as you are as well, uh, because we suffered so much from our delusions. And make no mistake about it, we may be in another delusion. However, this delusion is better than the other one. I never make that assumption and say, well, you should become like me because look at me. uh, Again, it's but for myself personally and for you personally, I think if the two of us had to meet in our 20s or 30s, it would be a very different encounter. We wouldn't
Yeah,
be having.
we were either friends or we were enemies.
I think we would be tremendous friends because we're so similar in so many ways, and I think we stop ourselves because, and I think the most important thing to going in a line confirming what we say individually is that I know my nature because of what you mentioned, the awareness, and I know my triggers, and I know how I can be. And so that really assists me in knowing that. So when I know myself deeply, then I can know the other and see in him what is in me. And because I allow myself that leeway, I allow the other this leeway. So it's a wonderful way to exist as an individual, no doubt about it. However, other ways are perfectly fine too. If you look at people in the Amazon rainforest, they know nothing about
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thing, and they may be superior to the way we are. There's this wonderful story of this man who didn't know he was doing it. There's this wonderful samurai story of this cat and this rat, but I won't go into the details. But he said they asked this great samurai, "How do you do that?" And he said, "How do I do what?" He said, "But you're the master of it." And he said, "Master of what? What are you talking about?" So then the master was explaining how this other samurai did that. Said he is higher in station to me, because for me it was this endless journey of me conceptualizing, understanding what he was doing, and he was just doing it. Now, at the same time, one could argue that the man who's had to struggle conceptually and intellectually and overcome is also superior to the man who doesn't even know, like the man in the rainforest again. So, like you said, the duality is like, well, is it this way or is it that way? Are we going to be better off by everybody awakening, or are we going to be worse off? And the lions, are
Yeah.
they going to be better off or worse off? And all I know right now is that, again, with the Sufis, he says when there is outward contraction, then there's inner expansion, and when there's inner expansion, there's outward contraction, and I see that playing out in my life, and so I can relate to that. So for me, it gives me a great sense of ease to know that if I feel the outward contracting and I've got a relationship problem, health problem, money problems, all the rest of it, I know that there is and how do I know this? Is because I know the nature of opposites and polarities, and studying the ancient texts, you see it, and the dualities come together, right? So when there's much unconsciousness in the world, there is also a rising of consciousness. And when there is seems like the world is going to shit and we need to save it, it may mean that the world is actually enlightening and you're not supposed to do anything in this type of thing. It's like we say, let's save the deer from killing the lion because, it's barbaric and the poor deer is hungry. I saw this documentary and it never failed to amaze me. And I recall that. So there's 3 lions, chasing after this deer that was badly wounded and struggling, and all the, you as the watcher from the human perspective, looking at the struggle, and you're looking at this poor deer, and I hope to save it. And these humans come, da 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 da, with the guns blazing, and they save this deer, and then the deer dies a few days later because of its injuries. And they follow these lions for 3 months. All 3 of them died of extreme starvation. That was their last meal, right? So we may say, well, one life saved is better than humanity being killed. And you see, it's all these things that it could be. At the same time, we have a human urge. We see something suffering and something dying, and we want to save that. Is like when we're in the individual struggle, like, well, why can't I stop the suffering and return to the level of bliss and all the rest of it? And we don't know, because this level of suffering may be exactly the creme de la creme that you need to be in. And so as my time progresses into the world, I become less and less certain of any position that I take. And it doesn't make me more humble by any means. I do judge a lot, and I judge people that have claims to this, that, and the other, including the intellectual claims, like we are this and we should be doing this and all the rest of it. And we live in the same world because we came from all of that. And the last time I interviewed you, it was a very clear example of that. And I think it's the only way I feel at ease, even though I've made so many rational arguments. If you ask me what's my summation of it, I'd say I'm an idiot. I'm really proud to be an absolute idiot. I wish I could be. That's the ultimate. Like, people have to have a response. I was training one of my coaches, and she says, I posted a question to her. What do you think the problem is? It's this. And I said, no, it's not that. Is it this? And I said, why do you need the answer? Why? That's our need. We need to answer. We need to know, because it's society saying that. And there isn't an answer.
I agree. Absolutely agree. There is no answer. And actually, why do we need an answer?
Exactly. Right. And obviously, for the purposes of conversation, it does aid in the discussion. And so people say to me, well, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know, because on the one level, it seems like I'm a spiritual teacher. Like, I still don't know what I do. And maybe you don't either. Then on the other side, I'm the coach, right? Helping you with your struggles and traumas, and I'm using NLP and mindset and law of attraction and all the rest of it. And on the other side, I'm the one taking you to, this higher plane of existence. I meet you wherever you want to go. Now, where I want you to be is an arrogant assumption. And leave the word arrogant out, but this is where I think you should be. It's my suggestion. How do I know that? Because I feel better about it, and I'm sure you will as well. And that's why if you follow my method and I take you there, then you'll be better. But the client comes to me and says, but I don't want that. I want to make more money, drive a faster car, and sleep with all the beautiful women in the world. I said, well, then let me meet you there. Because I could tell him, but literally, you're wasting your time. I've done all of that stuff. That doesn't give you the sense of inner peace that you want. He says to me, but when I'm in the fast car with the beautiful woman, I feel more alive than what you look. You have a point. So I'll take you there. You want the car? I'll get you the car. Because I can't assume I know better.
Yeah. We talked about this some time ago, and clearly, I was saying that to me, coaching really is not providing answers. It's not providing guidance. It's being your own body for whatever is your goal that you want to achieve. Clearly, if it goes against my ethics, I would basically say I cannot be your coach. But otherwise, you have to go wherever, it's your place that you want to go. It's for me to help you get there, not to judge whether it's the right thing to do or not.
Right. Oh, we know this is the ultimate way, and you should
Yeah,
get here.
yeah,
But I know my ultimate way, and I think you're very clear on that as well. And I would just confirm again what you said is that wouldn't it be nicer to live like this? And I would say yes, absolutely. And you become greedy for it. You become greedy for it. It's like you want more of that. What we wanted more of was the outside projection, and now I'm greedy for that. So if I can sit and turn everything off and be there, I know deep down this is what I ultimately crave now. And that's what Rumi says so beautifully. He said, you come and you visit me in the middle of the night. Why won't you come back and return? Because you realize that part of the illusion is your creation. However, there's another part of it is that you're just a participant in whatever's been created. And so you become creator, observer, observed, and you're just in this beautiful spiral, and all you can do is stop and smile instead of resisting, saying, well, I can't wait till you see my face again, or till I see your face again. It's like recognizing, well, it's going to be so much sweeter. And what about this? What about this? This is the whole point. What about this? This whole thing you call the shit, right? What about this? Can you make this? Because that's the ultimate thing. When people go on holiday and they're sitting on the beach in Bali, sipping on the thing, but now here you're working and slogging your ass off, and you got to pay bills, and no matter how much you earn, the bills. Can you find God in there? You can find God in your temple. You can find God in the mountain, but can you find God here? So I think that's the ultimate thing. And there's one thing that I saw in common with the Sufi masters, the Zen masters, all the rest of it. They're warriors. They're warriors of one kind or the other. They may be external warriors if you look at the crossover between Zen and the samurai. But you look in their face, and this is someone who's clawed their way up, right? And so we look at this act of peace and surrender and acceptance and allowing, and the single understanding of the dual nature, not one, not two. We think it's just some kind of passive thing where we're just sitting there and it just all la di da, and we're sitting there having, because it's just so. But you've been programmed this way, and this thing comes to you and it shouts at you. Now, the warrior way is the way of non-resistance, which is so much more difficult than the way of resistance. People think it's easy to not resist. It's so much more difficult than resisting. Every thought, every feeling, every enemy out there, you go kill them, and you say that's difficult. That's not the warrior. Warrior is seeing your own thing and staying present with it, watching and allowing it. This is what Buddha was doing, right? I mean, right at the end, trying to capture himself. And that's what I mean when I say the warrior within is not this external, I will kill any enemy, because is what Nietzsche said so beautifully. Nietzsche said, when man is no longer at war, he turns on himself. So the warrior, after he's killed everything else, is going to kill himself. But now, can you transmute yourself and become the warrior where you allow and accept and surrender to all these things that are saying, stop, stop, stop? Then, of course, when you go out there, you're not going to kill anything, because you realize it's all you, right? Thank you for bringing that out. I like the way that came out.
Yes. It's beautiful. And actually, I think we can end it here because we ended so beautifully.
Yeah, it is. It came out so nice.